Good evening. Now call to order our city council meeting. Have the invocation by Councilman Goldberg and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Spirit, bless everyone gathered here tonight. Give us the guidance and wisdom as we handle city business. Allow us to perform our duties in harmony and in an atmosphere of helping our community to become better as we represent all of our citizens. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow. Here. Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes, here.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yeah, here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Ward. Here. Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes. The Freedom of Information Act certification is required at this time. Madam Clerk, please present the resolution for consideration.
A resolution certifying the closed meeting of March the 17th, 2021 pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Suffolk hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements of Virginia law, and only such public business matters as identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the City Council of the City of Suffolk in the closed meeting.
Motion is in order. Move for approval. Second. Councilman Fawcett, second by Vice Mayor. Any discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
Motion's approved by a vote of 8-0.
Approval of the minutes from the October 21st, 2020 work session and regular meeting is the next item for consideration. A motion's in order. Councilman Williams, a second.
Second.
Councilman Ward, for the second. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Abstain.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 7-1 with Councilmember Butler Barlow abstaining.
We will now move to special presentations. Our first will be on COVID-19 response update. Mr. Manager.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, if we think back about 60 days ago where we were during the pandemic and where we were headed with phone calls and vaccinations, we've come a long ways. Tonight's presentation will be done by Deputy Chief Brian Spicer. He's going to revisit those 60 days, and he's going to take us as we look forward to future events and some promising events that are coming up. Brian?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, as the manager said, just kind of a quick look back as we look at this approaching 1 year of dealing with COVID here. A couple things. What we've really seen is a transition from testing to vaccination being the sort of the hot button item that everyone's talking about right now. It wasn't very long ago, you remember the biggest thing we were discussing is how do we get a test, and fortunately we've come to that's become pretty standard practice now, and hopefully we're moving in the direction to where the vaccinations will be the same. We have completed and passed through phase 1A, which encompassed all of the public safety personnel within the fire and rescue or the emergency medical technicians. All of those vaccinations were completed early on. We entered phase 1B, which was the designated essential staff, the city staff, yourselves included, the police department, Suffolk Sheriff's Office, courts, as well as individuals that were 65 or older. And we are still moving through that phase at this time. We opened a call center to deal with the excessive amount of call volume that was coming into the local health department to try to alleviate a little bit of that issue off of them and help the citizens out. That was open for some time, and I think we provided a real good service to the citizens during its open. The third vaccination has received emergency use authorization, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And from what we're hearing from the health department, that should be rolling in fairly quickly now in the next weeks or so, and should really begin to start alleviating some of the bottlenecks with getting vaccines out to the public. The case counts and the COVID-related deaths continue to decline. We've been on a rather lengthy decline thus far, and that continues as we move forward. And city facilities and offices opened back up March 15th after about a year's worth of being closed. So we're quite pleased to have been able to do that. Vaccination clinics that have occurred over about the past 30 days, the Western Tidewater Community Services Board in Harborview conducted 157 vaccinations. The Nansemond Indian Nation was administered 52 vaccinations. The Western Tidewater Regional Jail got their first doses for 53 of their staff. City of Suffolk specific clinic on Benton Road was held, and 260 City of Suffolk employees were able to get vaccinated at that facility. Bayview Physicians held 2 vaccination clinics. They've had dose 1, and they did approximately 2,520 vaccinations over 2 days. And I think it's next week or so they've got their second dose for that clinic coming up, so they'll be finished with that. Main Street Baptist Church had 358 doses administered, and East End Baptist Church had just over 1,000 doses administered. So like you see, we've had some rather successful vaccination clinics over the past 30 days. And the Suffolk Health Department has been doing about 120 doses at their facility every Friday, and that's going to continue on. As we look forward, the City of Suffolk will continue our planning activities with the state, our regional, and our local partners, dealing with the Department of Emergency Management, with the Department of Health, Western Tidewater Health District, and some of the local private partners. We're working with Western Tidewater Health District to ensure equity distribution throughout local churches. Western Tidewater Health Department vaccination clinics, as I mentioned a moment ago, they're doing 120 doses every Friday at the Suffolk Health Department. There are still vaccine opportunities at private practices, healthcare systems, pharmacies, primary care physicians that are out there. And the discussion has begun of transitioning from 1B to 1C, which is other essential workers. I think this is really going to be dependent upon the arrival of that Johnson & Johnson vaccine and open up our bandwidth to administer vaccine. As we look forward, the Meals on Wheels mobile vaccination clinic, I mentioned this to you last council meeting, and that's moving ahead nicely. Tomorrow and Friday, we'll be administering at their residence the first dose vaccines to, I think the number now is 24 Meals on Wheels clients. So we're pretty excited about that. That's a collaborative effort between Meals on Wheels, Suffolk Fire and Rescue, and Bayview Physicians, who were kind enough to give us the vaccine to make this happen. So we're real happy we're able to make this happen. The Western Tidewater Regional Jail, they will receive their second dose on March 22nd. Again, a collaborative effort where the paramedics from Suffolk Fire and Rescue will be the actual vaccinators for this clinic, with vaccine and support that's provided by the Western Tidewater Health District. The Bayview Physicians Dose Number 2 clinic that I mentioned a moment ago, that'll be the 29th and 30th of this month at the Hilton Garden Inn. The Suffolk Community Vaccination Center is set for in the neighborhood of April 1st, and I'll talk more about that here in just a second on the next slides. And the Meals on Wheels mobile vaccination clinic, dose number 2, is set for April 15th and 16th, so we can finish that group up. Again, that will be Suffolk Fire and Rescue going to the homes, providing the vaccines for them with the vaccine that was provided by the Bayview Physicians. The Suffolk Community Vaccination Center that I mentioned is a state-managed, vendor-supported, FEMA-financed vaccination clinic that is going to occur at the Hilton Garden Inn. Suffolk was fortunate enough to be one of 6 localities that were identified in Virginia through some metrics that were used by the health department at the state level to look at things like equity and the amount of vaccine that has previously been distributed to determine where a need was. So like I said, there were 6 localities in Virginia that were identified, and we were fortunate enough to be one. Also, Portsmouth was one as well. You may have seen their clinic in the news lately. They have recently opened theirs. So it'll be a type 3 vaccination clinic, which originally was set to be 1,000 doses per day, but it's probably going to be scaled up to accommodate 2,000 doses per day. Scheduling and appointments will be through the VDH pre-registration process. So the citizens that called into VDH and made their registration in that system with the Department of Health will get a phone call or will get an email from VDH alerting them to a website or another phone number to go to where they can actually make an appointment at our community vaccination center. So we encourage everyone to, keep a watchful eye on your email and your phone for that phone call to come from the state. As I said, this is going to be at the Hilton Garden Inn. The tentative dates on this, and this is a little bit fluid right now, but as it sounds right now, we're going to be set up for April 1 going into the Hilton for all the setup process. It'll take some days to get the vaccine ordered up from the central office in Richmond with the Department of Health. And right now the targeted start date is April 6th to start administering vaccinations. Now there is an opportunity for that date to move up a day or so depending on how much vaccine the local Western Tidewater Health District can give us to put into the process. We're set to be operational 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, from 8:30 to 5:30. And we're quite excited about that. And again, here's all the information for calling in or checking the VDH website to get registered for this or other clinics. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Chief, council, questions, comments? Councilman Fawcett.
Yeah, I just want to make a kind of a brief comment. With the site coming out to the Hilton, I'm quite familiar with what's going to happen at that location from nuts to bolts. I think everybody will be impressed with the operation. We got a very competent group coming in there to do this. Right now, I have been involved with this operation, and I have found that the sites that we have up and running at this point have been Portsmouth, of course, we've had Petersburg, Danville. Suffolk was one of the really opportunities to get these vaccines out, and I think, Chief, you hit the nail on the head. We're going to ramp this thing up, and we're going to start pushing vaccines pretty heavily. In the Portsmouth site, what we've done is we haven't been afforded the Johnson & Johnson yet, but we are taking on, we do the Moderna and the Pfizer. We're equipped to do both, and that's ramped up very well. I'm very impressed with the system, the way it came together in Portsmouth. Just a point of note, just to show you how things kind of go sideways a little bit, we ramped up the Danville site. The morning we ramped up the Danville site, we had 3,000 people at 6 o'clock in the morning waiting in line to get vaccinated. That's crazy, but it worked. We got every person that came through there vaccinated. So this is a great opportunity for Suffolk, and I can tell you that it's not just exclusive to Suffolk. You'll find that there are going to be people coming from wherever they have appointments that have been told to come to that site. So, for instance, we've had some people from Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Portsmouth, Suffolk. We've had people from all over coming into the Portsmouth site. So I think this is a great opportunity, Chief, for our city, and I'm hoping everybody that needs a vaccination will come out, and everybody that goes to that site will get taken care of. The Western Tidewater Regional Health Clinic has done a great job, and they continue to do a great job. This is just another layer of giving service to the citizens. So this ought to speed up the process quite a bit. So I thank you for what you're doing in your city and your staff, along with the city manager. And this could be a very big success for everyone. So I thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
Just a couple of comments. I think we need to really work hard on trying to get people to understand about answering the telephone, because a lot of people, when they see these numbers, they don't recognize, and they will not answer. So I don't know how they will leave them a message or not, but I know that's happening a lot because people, all these spam calls, people is not answering. And I've seen on television telling people to answer the call. The governor has put it out there. But I don't know if we can have some way of putting more information out there in the city or whatever. I don't know how we could do it. Maybe Ms. Klink might have an idea, but I think people need to have to stay focused because they're interested in doing it. People now really want to take the shots and they worry about can't get registered. And now they have opportunities to register, but maybe they're afraid to answer the telephone because of spam. So just a thought. I just want to throw that out there. And I think that we has come a long ways, but spring break is coming along now very shortly. And that's a concern that I think we all need to be aware of with wearing our mask and cleaning and washing our hands and social distancing and all. I think we can't drop the ball on that. I just want to mention those couple of things. So.
I add one thing. The Vice Mayor brought a good point out that I've experienced in the last couple of days with these appointments. Not everybody walks up, got a piece of paper in their hand saying they got an appointment. They've done it three different ways. They can either have it with a piece of paper where they copied it off. One, they can have it on their phone as an email. But two, he is exactly right. The state or somebody has called them and told them a certain time to go to a certain vaccine site. And that's kind of difficult because some people are not getting, not understanding and missing the phone call. So they need to be more vigilant about the phone, get the phone number when it comes in and take the call. When they come up to the site to get vaccinated, they're telling us they're getting phone calls. You don't want to turn somebody away because they said they got a phone call because they don't have a piece of paper or their phone with the information on it because of the fact that not everybody has a phone. Not everybody has a printer at home. So there has to be some way to disseminate this. They need to answer the telephone so they know to come on the day they're supposed to come. And I think you'll find that to work if everybody does that.
Councilman Williams.
Yes, Chief. I just have a question as it relates to the citizen in the rural area. I know we had mentioned it a couple of weeks ago about maybe using the Wellerville Community Center for those people out there in the rural area. Where are we at this point with that, or is it something that you're working on?
We are exploring that as well as a couple of other sites throughout the city, and what this vaccination clinic is going to do for us is going to free up our bandwidth a little bit to explore additional smaller vaccination clinics deeper into the community, or like we're doing here with the Meals on Wheels, where we're actually administering the vaccine. That's still very high on our radar. Like I said, once we get this thing up and running, and if it's a standalone event, as it seems like it's going to be, it's really going to free us up to address the issue you're raising here.
Dr. James has been working with some of the community or folks in the community to get those names in, to get them registered into, as she has said to Z recently, is that, just as Brian just said, is to be able, once our folks get freed up a little bit with the contracted services that are coming on a mass scale, that'll free them up, as Brian just said, and they're going to try to concentrate and do what I've been using the term as strategic strikes on and working through the community on that, and the churches too.
Council, any other questions, comments? Chief, thank you very much for your report. We have indeed come a long ways in 60 days. And I want to thank again those entities that have partnered with the city. East End offering their facility, especially Bayview Physicians, 2,520 vaccines. It just absolutely dwarfs everything else that was done up there. And a lot of what they had planned on were volunteer staff. And what a lot of people don't know is they actually came up short with volunteer staff and had 25 of their employees come down there and work that event to take them away from what they were doing. So this is greatly appreciated. It would not have happened without their assistance, because it was the Pfizer vaccine, which requires the additional cooling. And unfortunately, there's very few facilities that can accommodate that. They were one of them. So once again, I want to thank them, and hopefully we will continue to move forward. I do have one question. I've had a couple people ask me, kind of where are we in the 1B process, and when can the next group of people, and I'm not holding you anything, I know it's just going to be about, but what do you anticipate as far as the next group being able to get vaccines?
I think it's going to be health department specific as to when they transition to the 1C group. There are discussions going on now with other jurisdictions, some of which are in Hampton Roads, that are asking to go ahead and move to 1C. I can't stand here and tell you when Suffolk will reach that point, and unfortunately, I don't have data to say exactly how many of 1B we have reached at this point, but I do know we're making progress, and we'll continue to work towards that.
Okay, thank you very much. No other questions? Thank you very much, Chief. Oh, excuse me.
Mayor, I'd like to add one thing. As Brian mentioned, we did open up City Hall to the public on Monday, and on Monday we had 120 visitors. We had 104 yesterday and 114 today, all mask wearing, so everything's working fine.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, at this time, we'll consider the removal of items from the consent agenda and adoption of the entire agenda as presented. Removal of any item from the consent agenda will only be necessary if any member of City Council wishes to vote on a specific item separately, and a motion would be required. Questions and requests for information on specific agenda items can be addressed during the consideration of the consent agenda after the agenda speakers. If there are any items that members of City Council wish to remove from the consent agenda to be voted on separately, a motion would be appropriate at this time. Councilman Fawcett.
Move to accept the agenda as written.
Okay, but you won't pull anything out. Okay, so the motion is to approve the agenda, and second by Vice Mayor Bennett. City Clerk, please, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, we'll now move to agenda speakers. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers at this time?
No, Mayor Duman.
All righty. Madam Clerk, please present the items for consideration in the consent agenda.
Item number 7, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the OBC Healthcare Foundation for the City of Suffolk Department of Parks and Recreation. Item number 8, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the American Library Association for the Suffolk Public Library. Item number 9, an ordinance to accept and appropriate funds from the Virginia 911 Services Board Public Safety Answering Point Grant Program for the Suffolk Police Department. Item number 10, an ordinance to authorize the transfer of funds from the Mansman Parkway Traffic Signal Upgrade Project and the non-departmental capital contingency account to the Bridge Road Traffic Signal Project.
Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the items.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, item 7, the city has received $50,000 grant from the OBC Healthcare Foundation. The funding will support improvements to the Colburn Park, including trails, shelter, and fence repairs, along with the installation of a half-court basketball court. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund by the amount of $50,000, and there is no local match on this item. Item number 8, the city has received a $700 grant from the American Library Association in support of Suffolk Library's Applied Digital Skills Program. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund by $700, and again, no local match on this item. Item number 9, the city has received $3,000 in funding from the Virginia 911 Services Board Public Safety Answering Point Grant Program. The funding will support the police department's training of emergency communication operators, and 911 and GIS education. Adoption of the ordinance will increase the revenues and expenditures of the Consolidated Grants Fund by $3,000, and there's no local match required. Item 10, this ordinance authorizes a transfer of $1,051,808 in congestion mitigation and air quality funds from the Nansemond Parkway traffic signal upgrade project and $23,000 from the non-departmental capital contingency account to the Bridge Road traffic signal project. The total funding of $1,075,158 will provide for additional features to the Bridge Road traffic signal project that will be more cost-effective to complete in the current fiscal year. The Virginia Department of Transportation has approved the proposed transfer of the additional funding to the Bridge Road signal project due to the lower expenses experienced on the Nansemond Parkway signal project. The $23,290 is the city's local match for that transfer.
Okay, if there are no questions about the items, a motion would be in order to approve the consent agenda as presented. What is the pleasure? Councilman Johnson, motion, second from Councilman from Fawcett, seconds. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Now move to public hearings. Our first public hearing is an ordinance to grant a conditional use permit to establish a park or open space on property located at 724 North Main Street, zoning map 34A, parcels 30, 31, 31B, and 32, account numbers 252520150, 252939000, and 252521000, CUP 2020-026. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview of the item.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, I would like to take a second, though, before well, David's already at the podium, but I would like to thank him for his years of service with the city. He is to be retiring at the end of this month, and I just wanted to extend my appreciation. Mr. Hanley will be giving the staff report on this item.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. City Manager, members of council. As stated before you, you do have conditional use permit request, CUP 2020-026, Constance Park North, which was submitted by Mark Ferrello, Director of Parks and Recreation, applicant on behalf of the City of Suffolk, property owner, in accordance with sections 31306 and 31406 of the Unified Development Ordinance, to grant a conditional use permit to establish a park/open space generally on property located at 724 North Main Street, zoning map 34A, parcels 30, 31 star, 31B, and 32. The affected area is further identified as being located in the Suffolk voting borough, Zone B2, General Commercial Zoning District. The 2035 Comprehensive Plan designates this area as part of the Central Growth Area Core Support Use District. On the map, you will see the central area for there, and I'm going to go to the aerial. For those who have been on council for a number of years, they may be aware that this was referred to as the Lemon property and was acquired with the parks and the open space money that is granted through us through the CIP on an annual basis. It is a sizable tract, only part of which will be developed as part of this first phase. This shows the extensive nature of the tract along the river, and this shows the phase that is covered by the conditional use. There will be another conditional use. If you remember the CIP presentation on this one, there is a proposal to do an extensive boardwalk fishing pier further on down through that project area. However, this is the first phases of the development that will be covered by this CUP. This is a CUP for land use. It is not approving the site plan. That is done by very detailed plans that will come in the future. The Planning Commission had a public hearing on this item on February 16th and voted 8-0 to recommend approval by this body for this request. I stand to answer any questions at the termination of this public hearing.
Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and their address. We will have a 10-minute period for the proponents, a 15-minute period for those in opposition. and then an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address?
Excuse me, Counselor, are we talking against or for? Because I'm for.
The proponents receive the first 10 minutes.
Thank you.
The proponents.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Kelly Hingler, and I'm one of those, saw a young lady say that she was very tall, so here I am as well, having to lean into the mic. So we're for enjoying this park and enjoying something for downtown. I have a note that the actual paperwork and document that was looked at historically was from 2018. Since that time, we have had a wonderful historic find, the Ghost Fleet in downtown Suffolk. The history here on the river is a beautiful, wonderful, and majestic history. It is how we all arrived, is by water, other than our Native American Nansemond Indian Nation that was here previous. So we'd like to just have it entered into the notes and hope that we have a wonderful journey in getting all of the funding and maybe outside funding to help with this living shoreline and improvement in the downtown area. But we'd also like to note that it is a request that we have a full historic discovery to the, even before predating the Constance Wharf itself named as the city of Suffolk in that area. We have an entire Dropbox of information to help you with that. There is a work group throughout Nansemond County who loves Nansemond County and Suffolk who has that information and has delved that information to the earliest origins of the downtown area as we know it today. And would like to be able to help to submit that, but also DHR has quite an extensive archaeologic study that was done on the Ghost Fleet archaeology site itself and the surrounding area and what pre-existed at that site, so we can celebrate that together. I thank you so much. Good night.
Next speaker, please. Do we have any other speakers to speak for this project?
Good evening, members of council. My name is Mark Furl. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. So this park is, while this property is prone to flooding, the flooding is infrequent and it occurs less than 1% of the time, but it's being designed as a flood resilient park. We anticipate that there will be times where there's water on the park and it won't be usable, but the improvements that we're doing are going to be overall, it's going to improve the drainage to the park, and and everything that we're putting on there is going to be resilient to water. So I just want to make sure that that's understood. This is going to be, it's a 23-acre piece of property. We're developing 2 acres and we're doing significant improvements. Right now, we've had our consultants out on the site doing environmental studies. They've tried to do some soil borings and they broke bits on their borings because the ground is so compacted and there's gravel. When you look at it, it looks like it's a nice grassy field, but really under that there's a lot of gravel and hard surface, and we anticipate that most of that site isn't gravel, isn't porous. So part of this project will be returning a majority of that property to a porous surface, and we're restoring the shoreline to a living shoreline. So there's going to be a lot of overall environmental improvements to the site. And I'd be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
Next speaker, please. Are there any other speakers to speak in favor of this ordinance? Have any speakers in opposition? Any speakers in opposition? Hearing none, this public hearing is closed. An ordinance has been presented for council's consideration. A motion is in order.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make the motion for approval based upon so many citizens have been wanting this for so many years, and we now have it going to take place. It's a real plus for the city, and I appreciate all the effort that everyone has put into it, the background, the history that's been brought up in this, and I do want to move for approval, Mayor.
Motion for approval from Councilman Goldberg, second from Councilman Williams. Any discussion of the motion? Councilman Johnson.
I just want to say briefly that there are times that I'm really proud to be up here, and this is one of them. This is something our citizens have been asking for so long, just to have some access to the Nansemond. And I think we're moving in a positive direction, so for me, it's a no-brainer. This is a really good thing. Thank you.
Other discussion? Vice Mayor?
The one thing that I heard tonight that I hadn't heard before is going to be a fishing pier somewhere out there. So I know we've had a lot of people that love to fish in that area. And I think back of the service station, I think they stopped them from using that area. So that's a plus, I think, if we're going to put a fishing pier in that area somewhere.
The fishing pier is part of Phase 3. That won't be part of this part of the project. We do have Phase 3 identified in the CIP, though, for future years.
Maybe we need to look at that and move it up, because people do look for some place to go for recreation fishing.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Further discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Our next public hearing is an ordinance to amend Chapter 31 of the Unified Development Ordinance of the Code of the City of Suffolk, Article 7, Supplemental Use Regulations, Section 31-724, Solar Energy Facilities, OTA 2021-001. Mr. Manager, please provide an overview.
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, as you recall, at your last work session, last meeting, David presented a overview of some improvements to buffering of solar farms, and tonight is the ordinance action for that. And with that, David will give the presentation.
Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, Mr. City Manager, as stated, you do have an ordinance amendment before you, OTA 2021-001, which was initiated by the City of Suffolk for amendments to the Code of the City of Suffolk, Chapter 31 Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO, Article 7 Supplemental Use Regulations, Sections 31-724 Solar Energy Facilities. The purpose of the text amendments is to update and refine the Code of the City of Suffolk, Chapter 31, Unified Development Ordinance due to change in circumstances. And as the manager alluded to, we did do a presentation on the 3rd that kind of alluded to those change in circumstances that we had based on our experience on the facility that we have out on 460 that has experienced a number of problems with survival rates and density of plantings. And so the proposed text amendments that we have increases the buffer depth in certain areas where it's adjacent to a residential use or a residential zoning district to 50 feet, requires a full opaque screening to be achieved within 2 years, or else there is a requirement to put what I call the tennis court screening on the fence that's required already. Limits the number of deciduous trees and shrubs to 25% of the plant material, which is a substantial increase, and the number of evergreen plant materials that will be part of the buffer, and increases the size and number of trees and shrubs at the time of planting. That would facilitate the achievement of a buffer in a much quicker manner than is presently alluded to in our current standards. And that is the recommendation. It is to address those issues that we've had to provide a better solar screening due to the change in circumstances that we've noticed, and based upon the recommendations of that, the staff recommends approval of the text amendment, and the Planning Commission on February 16th recommended 8-0 for the recommendation of these text amendments. I stand to answer any questions at the termination of the public hearing.
Before we open the public hearing, Madam Clerk, please explain the timing system.
This is a public hearing, and each speaker is asked to provide their name and address and will receive 3 minutes to offer their comments.
This is a public hearing. Will the first speaker please come forward and provide their name and address? Do we have any speakers this evening? Not having any, this public hearing is now closed. An ordinance is presented for council's consideration. Councilman Fawcett?
Move to approve.
Councilman Goldberg with a second.
Second.
Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow. Yes. Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, we'll now move to ordinances. There are no items under this portion of the agenda. We have no resolutions. There are no staff reports. We do have a motion to schedule a city council work session on Wednesday, April 7th, 2021 at 4 p.m. unless canceled. A motion would be in order. Councilman Goldberg, Councilman Williams, second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett. Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
Motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, we'll now move to non-agenda speakers. Madam Clerk.
Each person participating under the item of business entitled non-agenda speakers shall limit their remarks to the services, policies, and affairs of city government and shall be permitted 5 minutes for the purpose of presenting his or her matter. Speakers appearing before City Council will not be permitted to participate in the following activities: to campaign for public office, engage in personal attacks, promote private business ventures, or use profanity. Speakers who violate these rules will be declared out of order by the presiding officer and will immediately yield the floor and be seated. Our first speaker is Nancy Prudent, 6620 Crittenton Road, representing self regarding historical properties and solar farms.
Good evening, I'm Nancy Pruden. I live at 6620 Crittenton Road, which is Crooked Creek Farm. I've lived there all my life, 62 years, and it's a century farm, which means a Pruden family has lived and worked on it for over 100 years. In 1901, my great-grandfather purchased this farm at auction on the steps of the Suffolk Courthouse for $2,500. He subsequently divided it in 3 sections. I live in the back farm. The Butlers live in the front farm, and the Waters family live on the farm beside me. Currently, there is an application for a solar farm to be put on the front farm, which is on my dirt lane. The property is historic, not only because of the Century Farm designation, but especially because of its past. In the 1700s, it was a working plantation by the Corbell family. John Corbell was the magistrate of Nansemond County, and quite the unsavory character. Still standing on the farm is a 3-story brick kitchen from the pre-Civil War era, 18-inch brick walls, and also a carriage house of the same era. My mother, Leona Pruden, had an antique shop in the kitchen. We called it the Old Kitchen Antiques, and she was featured in an article in the Ledger-Star in the early 60s, and soon after that article came out, we received a letter from a 90-plus-year-old lady from Portsmouth who said that she had been an indentured servant on the farm. So, of course, we went to see her, and she told us all kinds of great stories about living on the plantation and the Corbell family. Apparently, John Corbell was also not only the magistrate of Nansemond County, but the meanest man in the county. He adopted 2 children from England and promptly put them into servitude. The 2 kids lived in the 3rd story of that brick kitchen. And when Beth, the girl, it was twins, David and Beth, when the girl Beth turned 16, she got violently ill and died up there. And at some point threw up out of the upstairs window, and for years you could see the stains, up until about 1970, the stain coming down the bricks. How cool is that? Also, Sally Corbell visited her Uncle John there quite often and courted her future husband, General George Pickett, on this farm. So that's just a small sample of the history that is there, the history that's present, the legacy of the farm. My concern is the installation of an industrial-looking solar farm that would not only impact the community of Crooked Creek Farm, but the legacy of the property. I spoke with the representative of the solar farm, and they told me, well, yeah, we're going to buffer it, and I heard your buffering text earlier. Sounds great. I don't think you can buffer that kind of industrial-looking monolith on our farm. I think it would be sorely out of place. So landscape buffers are good, but I don't think it's going to do the trick here. And I think it is good for certain places. I think solar farms have a place. I think they're good, but not on a family farm in a close-knit community. And another thing that bothers me is a 20-year plus lease the solar farm has on that property. So we would have to live with this thing, industrial-looking piece of property, for 20-plus years. So I hope that when you consider the applications for these solar farms on small family farms that are not only community-oriented, but have a history, place in history, and a legacy in the city of Suffolk, that you'll consider this when you go to approve or disapprove a solar application. Thank you.
Troy Jean, 6625 Crittenton Road, representing Self, regarding growth around the river.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, my name is Troy Jean, 6625 Crittenden Road. I wanted to pick back up on where I left off on the river at the last meeting. I think y'all had an agenda there on one of your meetings that where y'all were addressing some of the erosion issues and stuff on the river. I wanted to remind everyone that that's the James being 5 miles wide coming from the mountains with all the alkaline water from that limestone mixing with that acidic water coming out of the river, the Elizabeth River, being pushed up the Nasma River makes this area of Suffolk a very, very special place there that nobody seems to be taking in consideration with all this development plan. I was lucky enough to work the river for years, and I learned quite a few things. I learned that everything doesn't take place everywhere, that certain things take place in very small areas. I learned that the crabs, when they come down the beach, there they stay very close to the beach. Everybody in the bay depends on running to this area and depends on these crabs early in the year to survive, and they're all going into our little estuary that's basically Suffolk. When you get out of what's owned by Suffolk, you're getting out of the zone to where all this takes place. It doesn't happen everywhere. So I learned that the crabs, the male crabs that bury into the bottom that everybody's getting ready to catch right now in the next few weeks is basically takes place between the old bridge and up to Brady's Marina, right where y'all were talking about moving the new bridge to, which would destroy that area. That's what paid for all my equipment year after year for the first couple weeks of the season. Then we'd run out to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel and wait for them crabs to come from down south, and we would take and chase them on into the river. So it was quite unique to be able to follow them crabs, and actually see what takes place, and that they're coming into the middle ground area, into this area of Suffolk, and how vital this area is to our whole East Coast and our seafood industry. All the crabs that are caught here between now and July the 4th are shipped to Baltimore and to the big seafood market, and they depend on that quite extensively. All the crabbers in the bay are all running to the ocean view and the beach, trying to get ahead of these crabs coming from down south to come into this part of our estuary, and we don't have much of it left. The erosion and stuff from Candy Island on up the river on the banks doesn't allow these crabs to get into the marsh grass anymore. the erosion that we're having on all these other shorelines where we're building isn't allowing it in to get into the marsh anymore. And we're building on the protected shorelines that are protected from these northeast storms and stuff, and destroying what shoreline is there. So I would hope that when we look at all this development plan that we seem to be doing, that we take in consideration what it's doing to this very important estuary for the whole East Coast, and how small it really is, and how small the areas are in that river where different things take place, and the effect that destroying one has on the other. So again, when y'all look at that big plan to develop all these areas, it's you're really destroying what brought everybody to this area to begin with, so, and all of our watermen's livelihoods and all in the meantime. So thank you for your time. So, have a good evening.
Tyron Riddick, P.O. Box 413, Suffolk, representing self regarding city funding for schools.
Good evening, Mayor Duman, Vice Mayor Bennett, and members of Suffolk City Council. I come before you tonight as a concerned citizen to address the needs of construction of a new John F. Kennedy Middle School. I do not come before you as a member of the school board, nor do I represent the views of the school board, but I am sharing with you my own personal views for an urgent need to begin construction of a new John F. Kennedy Middle School with the 2022-2023 fiscal year. John F. Kennedy was originally constructed 56 years ago in 1965 with a major addition completed in 1968. According to the facility condition report prepared by RRMM and submitted to council, the following conditions were cited as being poor: site drainage, bus drop-off lanes, parent drop-off lanes, buildings facade, windows, doors, frames, gutters, downspouts, offsets, trim, exterior caulking, general classroom, cafeteria, administrative areas, door, hardware, interior signage, unsecure electrical panels, roof system, roof penetrations, roof water ponding, roof drainage, vent scopers, roof expansion joints, exhaust hoods, mechanical equipment, electrical service, distribution, interior lighting, and steel lintels. In addition to the area that were rated as being poor condition, there were also a number of areas rated as being fair condition. I will not list those, but I do believe it is worth noting that only 2 areas were found to be in good condition: outdoor recreational areas and an intercom clock phone system. In essence, the school is in good condition for outdoor recreation and for intercom and phone communication. I would hope that we all would want our school facilities to be more than a place where facilities are good for outdoor recreation and for intercom and phone communications, that we would want our facilities to be good for more than simply being a place to play and talk. Many of the areas assessed as being in poor conditions are not merely cosmetic in nature. For example, the report indicates overall site drainage appears to be in poor condition, and it is not performing as intended per the original designs, that the water penetration into the building allows for unhealthy indoor conditions. There are ADA compliance issues and building code issues that impact health and safety. The report indicates that the building at John F. Kennedy is not protected with a sprinkler system, and the lack of a fire suppression and current alarm system does not appear to meet the current life system codes, the life safety codes. It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Therefore, I urge you to go back and look at the many pictures taken of John F. Kennedy that are included in the report. Particularly, I encourage you to look at the pictures found on page 15 through 35, 38 through 78, and 76 through 84. Substandard school buildings and grounds can negatively affect the health of children and adults in schools. Researchers have found that exposure to mold, poor ventilation, uncomfortable temperatures, inadequate lighting, overcrowding, and excessive noise all have a potential to harm students and teachers' health, contribute to absenteeism, and to reduce cognitive abilities of all, which affect academic achievement. Dampness and mold in school buildings incredibly accelerate children and teachers' asthma symptoms, and both children and teachers perform better with an increase of fresh air ventilation. Students learning in an undermined and poorly designed and maintained building, and students from low-income families are more likely to attend our schools in such buildings. The Office for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Education stated in 2014 Dear Colleague letter that structurally sound and well-maintained schools can help students feel supported and valued. Students generally better able to learn and remain engaged in instruction, and teachers are better able to do their jobs in a well-maintained classroom that are well-lit, clean, spacious, heated, and air-conditioned as needed, in contrast when classrooms are too hot, too cold, overcrowded, dust-filled, or poorly ventilated, students and teachers suffer. Decades of research confirm that the conditions and qualities of school facilities affect students, teachers, and overall academic achievement. In their review for peer-reviewed literature, researchers in Harvard Schools of Public Health conclude that the evidence is unambiguous that school buildings influence the students' health, thinking, and performance. Researchers have also shown that school facilities qualities affect teachers. For example, a 2002 survey of teachers in Chicago public schools and the District of Columbia found that when teachers consider their school to be...
Allocated, Mayor.
Not a time?
That concludes the time.
That concludes your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Claudia Holland, 9351 Rivershore Drive, representing Self, regarding a welcome to Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Good evening. I'm not a public speaker, but here goes. My name is Claudia Holland, and I reside at 9351 Rivershore Drive, located in Eclipse. Every family has their secrets. The biggest secret in my family was my grandmother's age. At her request, inscribed on her gravestone is one date, the day she passed away, not her birth date. So, keeping with family traditions, I will only say I've been around for a while. From the first grade through the 8th grade, I attended Chuckatuck School, where at 14, met this good-looking guy who played a guitar and was in a band. In those days, a teenager couldn't ask for anything more. We both entered the 9th grade at the brand-new John Yates High School. Some years later, we were married at Ebenezer Methodist Church in Crittenden. We were blessed with 2 beautiful daughters, and after what seemed like a very, very long time with only grand dogs, we eventually welcomed 5 grandchildren. A couple of years ago, a group of my neighbors met to organize the CENH Heritage Civic League. Our goal is to work within our community to give each resident a voice, to work for the benefit of the community, their children and grandchildren, extend a welcome to new residents, and reach out to our surrounding communities. We have 2 presidents of our Civic League. Kelly Hingler is our executive president, and I am our heritage president. Why, you ask, have you had to listen to my long-winded and boring speech? As a member of a family who have lived in the area included in the Chuckatuck Borough for generations, and as a representative of our Civic League, consider this an introduction and a welcome to our new City Councilwoman, Mrs. Barlow. We look forward to working with you. As the communities of the Chuckatuck Borough are interconnected through generations, we are working to uplift and preserve our historic communities. Again, welcome and God bless.
Kelly Hengler, Post Office Box 6028, representing the Crittenton Eclipse Hobson Heritage Civic League regarding Chuckatuck Rural Residential Conservation District.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor Bennett, and once again, a welcome to you, Councilman Barlow, and all council members. Well, I am Kelly Hengler, and I am the executive president of the Crittenton Eclipse and Hobson Heritage Civic League. We actually originally had a civic league in 1946, and the 1906 schoolhouse that sits and resides now, that was built by the community during the time in Nansemond County, closed around the same time period, and then was extensively deeded to the Civic League, and has been kept in good stead as a historic marker community hall, the only community hall in all of the US Route 17 corridor, up until this time by our Ruritans. We have Ruritans all across, and please respectfully now I mention their names because they are also a portion of our heritage here in Suffolk. As we roll out the vaccine situation, I have been on the phone gratefully with the aides for Congressman Bobby Scott's office, Senator Warner's office, Senator Kane's office, and our state delegates, begging them to please pay attention to our Western Tidewater Healthcare District. Not that that leadership is not doing what it's supposed to do, but we are so unique in kind as the city of Suffolk that we have multiple Ruritan clubs throughout because we also have multiple rural communities. So we are going door to door, door knocking, and finding grandmothers and grandfathers, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers, to whom and all one in multi-generational form in all of our rural communities, beginning in the Chuckatuck Borough. What are we finding is that we're having critical needs, including a grandmother recently who couldn't get the second Pfizer shot after she had been to one of the open clinics to receive her shot because she'd also had a surgery. Through the efforts of Temple Bethel, and thank you very much, sisters and brothers down there on US Route 17 and the Centera Vaccination Coordinating Team, we were able to get that grandmother, Mr. Troy Jean's mother, her second Pfizer shot when everyone, and I mean everyone, said there are no Pfizer shots. So this is how community comes together, and we want to show you that example. We want to say happy St. Patrick's Day, happy Women's Veterans Week, okay, as we are learning to grow and celebrate within the Chuckatuck Borough. It is finitely very unique, and I will say, unless someone would like to academically challenge me on this, of which I would have the pleasure, that the Chuckatuck Borough is historically the oldest part of old Nansemond County in Suffolk. It was settled originally by some of the planters, okay, and Cavalier after the Nansemond County Indians, and we have resided in peace there with them. From the Chuckatuck Borough all the way at Chuckatuck through Oakland, we are watching as the landscape is being changed, and names of our streets and our small village hamlets have also been changed, and we don't understand how or why. We had a wonderful meeting with Chuckatuck Civic League on Monday night. We have open invitation back and forth, and quite unfortunately in March we did have a passing in our community that struck people very deeply to their core, and so we decided not to have our Civic League meeting in March. But we are creating this between Crittenton, Eclipse, and Hobson, down through Hobson itself, into Sandy Bottom, which has not been forgotten at Crooked Creek Farm and our 100-year farms, out to Chuckatuck, Oakland, Everett. All of our community know itself as interconnected throughout Chuckatuck Borough. Chuckatuck Borough now also includes out to Hill Point and by Godwin, but I want to be able to point out to you in this time of vaccination that when we do roll out things for our comprehensive plan, in which we must and shall, we need community involvement throughout the community because we have sanitation needs, flooding needs, okay, that are as unique as the vaccination situation that we have at this time, where we literally have to go door to door in our rural communities to be able to help these communities to get the vaccines to our elders. These folks sometimes don't turn on a TV set, not because they're so, remedial. This is culture. This is the culture of our 80, 90, 100-year-old folk, okay? They don't sit around with the TV on all day. So they may not hear that. And I second you, Vice Mayor, that we need to also remind them that with the robocalls that they have, to please simply be attuned until they get the call for that vaccination appointment. Okay, and so thank you for bringing that up, sir. And one and all, we are historic, and our communities have always been connected and sharing in resources. It is a loving and kind and wonderful environment as much as we've had to be up here fighting, okay, fighting literally for our survival, which is not what we should have to do. We are the Rural Residential Conservation District, the Chuckatuck Borough. There is a reason because we are rural. There's another reason is because we're mostly surrounded by water, or we have the headwaters that go into the rivers and the creeks. And all of these people would do anything for each other. And I do mean anything. And we must and shall be able to do that as an asset here in the city of Suffolk. There is so much love. I hope that as the spring comes and the summer unfolds, you're able to come and enjoy some of that with us. And welcome again, Councilman Barlow. Thank you and good night.
Miller Area 1002, MacArthur Drive, representing South regarding school board budget.
Hi, my name is Miller Carey, and I reside at 1002 MacArthur Drive. I'm here again for an issue you are likely growing weary of hearing about. The issue is such a basic, foundational tenet of the government of free people that it shouldn't be an issue at all. The particular justification for this case has been articulated over and over quite well by teachers, by parents, by a former superintendent, a current member of the very school board, and most importantly, by a broad swath of intelligent, engaged, and informed citizens that vote right here in Suffolk. But don't worry, the school board chair and her top lieutenants assure us there's no problem here. She would rather you believe that 81% of surveyed Suffolk school system employees, 86% of parents and other stakeholders, a former superintendent, a current member of their own board, the Fifth Circuit Court of Virginia, their own legal insurance attorney, several members of this council before me. The list goes on and on. The school board chair would rather you believe that all these people are simply interested in what she terms budget season distractions. I guess it's just some vast conspiracy. I wonder how many of you here tonight have seen the show Intervention. If you haven't, perhaps you're at least familiar with the concept of what an intervention is and how it works. An intervention is called for when there is a person living so far outside the bounds of acceptable conduct that she has become destructive to herself, those in her care, and others around. The subject of such an intervention typically expends great energy denying that the problem even exists, deflecting all appeals. Deflecting to some after-the-fact stack of receipts, deflecting to audits nobody is talking about, deflecting to a parade of compliant employees, ignoring the 81% who want better budget transparency, deflecting to broad smears of anyone who dare call for better transparency, deflecting to feigned indignation, deflecting in op-eds in local papers. Has it become a bit clearer at this point the source for all the actual budget season distractions? But back to interventions. After all options have been exhausted, stakeholders come together and assess just what options they do have to intervene on behalf of someone who cannot acknowledge she needs help. They know they will be called every ugly name in the book. They know their motives will be questioned. In this case, they already know they will be accused of not supporting education. They expect to be slandered and cursed by an individual who asserts that she doesn't have to answer to anyone. Nobody particularly wants to do it, but they know they must. 81% of surveyed Suffolk school system employees, 86% of parents and other stakeholders, a former superintendent, a current member of the school board, the Fifth Circuit Court of Virginia, their own legal insurance attorney, me, you, and everyone else all across Hampton Roads, including businesses considering investment in this city, all know what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is an intervention with the Suffolk School Board, a body that spends 6 figures in legal fights with one of its own, but tells teachers they must provide their own PPE and copy paper. You cannot fix all of that governing body's dysfunction, but you can and should do your part. Stand up for all the parties I've mentioned and do not fully fund their request until they produce a line item by individual school budget, not an after-the-fact expense report like nobody knows the difference, a budget that shows money from the allocation to the classroom before the school year starts. That call for transparency is the bare minimum taxpayers should expect for the biggest allocation in this city's budget. I hope this council will not shrink from this critical responsibility, and if it does, I want to know who wasn't willing to stand up for education where it really matters, in the classroom. Thank you. Godspeed.
Lorna Taylor, 5577 Godwin Boulevard, representing Self, regarding concerns for Oakland.
Good evening. My name is Lorna Taylor. I reside at 5577 Godwin Boulevard, located in the Oakland section of the Chuckatuck Village. I came here tonight because, and I'm real nervous, so please forgive me, I forgot to say good evening to the mayor and vice mayor, and all the members of council. I am a fifth generation of the Oakland community, and I would like to know why our demographics are changing. First, we were in the Northern Market, Chuckatuck Village, and now it's called Oakland Acres. There was a marquee that used to be in our community to identify our community. However, that marquee has been moved, and I would like to know if that can be replaced. I also want to address that we have a serious drainage problem in the Oakland and Chuckatuck section of Suffolk, to the point that it is flooding our homes, going under our houses, and this water is running off of the highways. All of the ditches in our area are closed. They're not being maintained by the city. The seniors in our community, and myself included, are getting out and digging our ditches. Whenever we call and ask for them to be clean, they will come out and dig a hole in the front of the ditch. On Everest Road, when it's raining, if you're standing outside, the water runs all the way up to my neighbor's house. My neighbor beside me on both sides, our yards are flooded. And that should not be. The fallout ditches are clogged up. Many of the ditches you can just walk in. And we have asked, the community has, Oakland Greater Chuckatuck Civic League has been asking for these areas to be clean. However, it's not being done. And we want you to know we're proud of our little community in Chuckatuck. I'm saying that because I'm representing myself right now, but whenever I leave Chuckatuck, I represent Chuckatuck and Oakland as an individual city from that community. And we're proud of it. And we just want you all to help us to continue to stay proud of our area. You know, when the city couldn't provide us water, we had 10 men in our community that went out and dug the water system that served our whole community. And we want to remember that heritage. My grandfather was one of those men. So we're asking you, in developing our areas, please don't forget Chuckatuck and Oakland community, because these developers are coming in, they're tearing up our driveways, get mad if we ask them to get off of them, you know, and that's not fair to the seniors of our community. It's a lot of water that's being standing in our community because the developers are putting their property higher than the grade of the original property owners. So all of that water is running off to the lowest point in our backyards and flooding out our backyards and causing standing water, and that will also be a health issue. So I'm just asking that you all not forget our community because it's important to us. Thank you.
That concludes the speakers, Mayor.
Now move to new business. Madam Clerk, are there any additions to tonight's agenda?
The first addition to this evening's agenda is a motion to nominate and appoint Clarence W. Ash III to the Suffolk Redevelopment and Housing Authority Board of Commissioners.
Councilman Johnson, a motion, second. Councilman Fawcett, any discussion in the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, Councilmember Butler Barlow. My apologies.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward? Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Dooman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0. The second item is a motion to schedule a special city council meeting on Wednesday, March the 24th, 2021 at 2 p.m. for the purpose of considering prospective candidates for the position of city manager.
Motion to be in order. Councilman Williams, second. Fawcett, any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Butler Barlow?
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett?
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Ward?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yes.
Mayor Dooman?
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8-0.
Is there any other new business items that require the action of City Council for consideration? Hearing none, we'll move on to announcements and comments. At this time, I'll ask a Media and Community Relations Assistant Director Tim Kelly to come forward with the announcements.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, City Manager. This week, the Suffolk Police Department welcomed 8 new members to their ranks. A badge pinning ceremony was held on Monday, March the 15th, here in City Council Chamber, during which the pictured officers received their badges. We want to note congratulations and again, welcome to these new members of the Suffolk Police Department. The Suffolk Office of Emergency Management is joining the Virginia Department of Emergency Management and National Weather Service in promoting the Commonwealth's first Severe Weather Awareness Week, March 15th to March 19th. The week is focusing on different severe weather topics each day. Monday highlighted the difference between a watch and a warning. Yesterday featured Virginia's annual statewide tornado drill. Today covered severe thunderstorms, tomorrow flooding, and Friday lightning. You can kick off spring with Suffolk Tourism's first preseason farmers market, Spring Market. It'll be held at the Suffolk Visitor Center Pavilion on Saturday, March the 20th from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. The market will feature over 25 vendors offering a variety of items, including fresh seasonal produce, meats, eggs, baked goods, dog accessories and treats, handcrafted soaps, candles, jewelry, and other artisan quality goods. There'll be live music and concessions available for purchase. For additional details, contact the Suffolk Visitor Center. From Suffolk's best-kept culinary secrets to national award-winning restaurants, Suffolk Restaurant Week promises a savory blend of the city's signature flavors. The spring edition of Suffolk Restaurant Week is slated for March 20th through the 27th. During this annual culinary showcase, participating eateries offer 3-course price-fixed menus. Also, some restaurants are also offering specially priced family-to-go options. No coupons, vouchers, or tickets are needed. You just have to order from the Suffolk Restaurant Week menu at each location. With 15 eateries from which to choose, it's a perfect time to sample new restaurants and old favorites as local chefs prepare delectable dishes for your dining enjoyment. Are you ready to do a little spring cleaning? Keep Suffolk Beautiful has teamed up with AskHRGreen.org and Keep Virginia Beautiful to be part of the regional cleanup effort. Volunteers can partner with others from across the region for this year's Great American Cleanup, which will be March 26th and 27th. Instead of gathering in large groups for organized community cleanups, residents will focus on cleaning up their own communities and local outdoor spaces in smaller numbers. Litter kits are available and can be delivered and picked up after your cleanup. To take part in the Great American Cleanup, you can register online or contact Keep Suffolk Beautiful. Join Suffolk Parks and Rec for the annual Spring Extravaganza. Be at Bennett's Creek Park, Saturday, March the 27th, from 6:15 to 9 o'clock for an evening full of family fun. The event is free and open to the public. Online pre-registration is required per car. You can bring a basket to set outside your car for an egg giveaway and take-home craft personally delivered by Peter Cottontail. There also will be a movie. The movie will be Hop. It begins approximately 7:30 that evening. The deadline has been extended for the fourth round of the Suffolk COVID-19 Small Business Assistant Grant Program. The closure date has been moved to Wednesday, March the 31st at midnight. This will allow the inclusion of a broader range of small businesses from Suffolk who have been impacted by COVID-19 restrictions. For this current round, applications are open to small businesses established in Suffolk, both brick and mortar as well as home-based businesses. The business must have been open for business by November 1st of 2020. Additional information, qualifications, and the application can be found on the Yes Suffolk website. Approximately $500,000 is available for grants, which will provide working capital grants of up to $5,000 per selected business. As a reminder, residents with questions about the vaccination process or needing assistance in pre-registering for vaccines with the Virginia Department of Health can contact the state call center at 1-877-VACCINE-VA, or you can also pre-register online at vaccinatevirginia.gov. Virginia's call center is open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's staffed by 750 live operators who can answer questions about the COVID-19 vaccine and help people get pre-registered. To reach the call center via Virginia Relay, including by TTY, dial 711. If wait times are long, Virginians can choose to get a call back and avoid having to stay on hold. Again, Vaccinate Virginia, very important to get pre-registered through the site, or again, you can call to get assistance there as well. And we leave you with the ways we reach out to our businesses and residents. Again, the number in the upper left-hand portion of your screen, 514-4000. If you want to get connected with city services, reach city staff, have questions answered, we're there to help. With that, I'll say good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. We'll now move on to announcements from City Council, and we'll start with Councilwoman Butler Barlow.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the many residents of the Chucktuck Borough, that turned out tonight. I appreciate their welcome, and I appreciate their interest in being involved in the community and in issues facing the community. I would also like to commend the city on their partnership and with Meals on Wheels to collaborate to vaccinate the Meals on Wheels clients in their homes. I think this is an excellent effort between different groups in the community and a great service to those folks that will be receiving those vaccines. I would like to thank the city manager and staff for getting the city buildings back open. I do have a question. Are the libraries included in that list or not? Yeah, okay, just checking. And lastly, I'd like to thank Superintendent Gordon for his invitation to the City Council to attend the event at Pioneer Elementary this morning with First Lady Pam Northam and the Secretary of Education, Carney. It was a nice event showcasing the reopening of the schools and the quality of the schools in the Suffolk Public School System. So thanks to Superintendent Gordon for that. And with that, I'll say good night.
Johnson.
I'll ditto on Councilwoman Barlow, a lot of what she said, but I have one note I need to bring up, and this is for the city manager. It's come to my attention that the community house in Holland no longer wants to be a voting precinct for numerous reasons, and I happen to agree with them. So I'm just trying to expedite the process by making you aware. We have visited many places in Holland and looked for a place for the voting precinct, and it seems to people that I've talked with that Pioneer Elementary sure seems to be the right place. Of course, it needs to go through the registrar's office, through the school board, and make sure it's okay with the superintendent. But I'm just trying to expedite this because as of the next election, I think they're going to allow it, the community house, but then in November they will not. So if we could just kind of get that moving forward, I'd appreciate it. And that's it. I don't like to do that in this segment of the program, but I think this is the only segment I could do it in. I'd like to reach out to the family of Bertha Turner. The class of 1978 at Forest Glen High School remembers Mrs. Turner as our vice principal. She was a remarkable woman in a remarkable time, and she has passed away, and we're going to miss her greatly. So I say that for all of my classmates and for everyone that was at Forest Glen High School. You know, talk about John F. Kennedy High School. Forest Glen High School was built the same time as John F. Kennedy, and we have a lot of people in this city that love the place. But we also loved our staff there very much, so Mrs. Turner will be greatly missed. Last thing on my list, well, this is almost last thing, litter cleanup. Wow, let's do it. We need to get our city behind this. We need to get our city employees behind this. We need to get our citizens behind it. I've gotten more calls lately about the litter. We need to work on it, guys. And when you see somebody throw litter out of the car, honk your horn and yell at them. I'm sorry, it makes me hot. We need to get our city clean again. So whatever we can do as a city, as a council, and as a citizenry, let's fix it. Let's get our city back to where it should be. Thank you for City Hall being open. It's wonderful, and your staff is doing a tremendous job. Our kids are back in school part-time, another wonderful job. Just the kids we saw this morning in school, it made me feel so good to see them there, and they are so excited to be back. So we're doing good things. And with all of that, I think life is getting better with the pandemic, and hopefully we will be out of it soon. Thank you.
Councilman Foster.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a couple items. Thanks for the city manager and staff getting City Hall back up, and I hope the transition works, and it looks like it started to ramp up and do well, so thank you for having that. Congratulations to all the new PD officers, police officers that came to join us in the family of Suffolk. We desperately need police officers to come on and be a part of our force, so I thank Chief Chandler and all your staff for getting this ramped up, because I know you're badly in need of them, and it fills a lot of holes, so thank you very much. With that, great council meeting. Thank you to each one of you. We'll see you in the next meeting.
Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the city manager for getting the City Hall open. It's great to know that we're finally open again. Great job. I would also like to piggyback off what Councilman Johnson and what they said about the, I attended Pioneer Elementary School this morning when First Lady Pamela Northern and Kwani Secretary of Education was there. It was a great event. I would also like to wish Miss Ernestine Langston, a civic leader, historian, and a pillar of the Wellerville community. She will be 93 years old on April the 3rd. Just wanted to wish Miss Langston a happy birthday. I would also like to congratulate and welcome the 8 new police officers that received their badges during the badge pinning ceremony on Monday. Great job, and we know that you'll serve our city well. I would also like to offer my condolences to the family of Mrs. Virginia Lee Ellen Mills. She was also a pillar of the community, Wellerville community. My hearts and prayers go out to her family during these difficult times, and she was 95 years old. With that, I'd like to say good night and everybody be safe.
Councilman Goldberg.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to thank everyone who is getting involved with the COVID-19 and the shots and the vaccinations and getting us where we need to be. It's great for us to get to a point where we can really start getting serious about really opening up and being there. I also like to thank, from the city standpoint, all the employees that I see out working the public works, public utilities. I see them out on the road. I see them doing their job, doing a rough time. I appreciate that. And the police officers that are out there and fire that I see, all the city employees that I see outside. Not to say the others that are inside are not doing a fine job too. I just don't see them when I'm out, and I just want to pat them on the back and thank them for what they're doing very much. With that, Mayor, I say good night.
Yes, I also like to thank Al for putting the city hall back open again. Like I said, Al, you had some hard things to do, but you have accomplished great of them. And I also like to congratulate the 8 police officers, new police officers, been pending attend that event. But the biggest thing for me is not wrestle, but been a problem that I had to congratulate the people about this COVID. Today, Temple Bethel put on the event for vaccination, but it went like, Elder Lott gave me a call, I think Thursday or Friday, and informed me that Temple Bethel and Centura was getting together with vaccination shots. So he told me go out and call and some of the civic leagues and all the community, let them know that it was giving the shots on Wednesday, which is today, March 17th. And I did my due diligence and went out and did that. And matter of fact, I even told my kids, I don't mess with my Facebook page every 4 years, but I told my kid to put it on Facebook and tell all the people that they had the shots going on. And one thing about this, and I had to congratulate every place I went, especially Timberdale today, it's such organized. And with the crisis that it is so organized with the professionalism of the medical staff, volunteers or workers, and only that, not even that, the people that's come getting their shot. You don't see no orderly or nothing. They just sit, they stand there as long as they have to, and they just wait patiently. So I had to give congratulations to the people and the whole staff and organization. And like I said, Al, when we had it in the city, it was so ran well. I mean, every place I went was ran well. And I think that is a testimony to people knowing that they want the shots, because it's like unbelievable. You see these people and how they work with each other. And with the climax of this country, some of the city, they don't care who you are. And that's what's the most important part. When I walked away, you know, I thank God. So look what's going on. That it's so, you know, bad out here with this virus, and these people are coming, and the organizations are putting it on. They've been a class act, very class act, and I got to applaud them for everyone I went to, most all around the cities. And like you said, we're looking at the stats, how many people we have done, and we probably can do more. And it's such a great thing. Even Timberdale, when Elder Lott seen the crowd, he made adjustment to have you can stay in your car, and they'll give you the vaccination car. So, like I said, I thank Timberdale for what they've done in the northern part of Suffolk with Centura Hospital. Thank you so much for allowing that community up there. And one of the other things I want to just mention, you know, during the time, all of us was concerned on this council. All of us were concerned about the pandemic. All of us concerned. And unfortunately, it was like protocol. We had to wait. And some people was going around like saying we wasn't concerned what's going on and making statements about the council or the communities and stuff like that. But that's not true. That wasn't true. So I thought about that, of all the things we've been going for the last 2 months about the shots, and just to see how Timberdale put that on, and all other organizations put it on. Like I said, it's been a class act, and I thank y'all so much for the opportunity just to see that, and the people that have opportunity to get their shots. With that, I say God bless.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, sir, Mayor. Well, I'd like to just start out by some of the things that have already been said about the governor of Wiseman Northern being in Suffolk today at Pioneer, and it was great to see her there, and the Secretary of Education, to meet with the students, and it looked like she thoroughly enjoyed being in the classroom. I think she's a former teacher, and she showed that she really enjoyed being in the classroom, especially with those kindergarten kids, and it made me feel good to see those kids back in school and look like they was enjoying themselves, and teachers were excited. And also to the school board and to the superintendent and all the staff, I give them congratulations on being able to go back into the schools and keeping the children, teachers, and all safe. So I just want to commend them for that. Also, I'd like to say that the new 8 police officers, young people, they were young. They have a lot of energy, I'm sure, to get started, and I was glad to see, I think 5 of them was females, so which is great. That's a good diversity group of police officers, and I was glad to see them coming on board. Also, I'd like to congratulate the police department. I see they are doing a litter cleanup in the downtown area, and I think that's a plus in the community. That's showing people in the community that you're working with the community, and that you want to be a part of them. Also, I would like to say to Chief Chandler, I saw the interview that Tim Kelly did with Lieutenant Myrick and Sergeant Key about the explorers. That's something that I had asked our former city manager about a year ago, and I'm so happy to see that is being implemented. And I think that is something that will help a lot with some of our young people that's in high school now to take interest in being a part of the police department. Actually, Lieutenant Merrick and also Sergeant Key, all of them came through the Explorer. So they are very, very familiar. That's just go to show you that that is a plus in the city, that you still have two officers that started out in the city as explorers and still are here, and they have a long tenure of service. So I just want to thank you, Chief Chandler and Lieutenant Myrick and Key for putting this forward. Mr. Manager, I'm glad to see this moving forward, that this will help in a mighty way with some of our young people. The other thing I have that I have a big concern with is we all council members received a letter from a Miss, let me look it up, Hughesville, anyway. And there was some things said in that letter that I didn't understand or didn't agree with, and it was about some houses being built. And I know that in the past that we had in our ordinance and the UDO where houses could not be built on paper streets unless the streets was brought up to standards with water, sewer, and paved streets. There are some houses being built that's not meeting those standards. I rode down there yesterday. I saw it with my own eyes. A new house has been built on one of the paper streets in Suffolk. It's adjacent to Chesapeake. The other one is a lot that's being cleared, look like to build a house. And that is in Suffolk. And the paper street is still there. It's a brand new house that has just been built just beside the trail that was just completed. And that's a brand new house. So we have to have a standard wherein that if we have a standard where they cannot get permits to do this, we should not issue them. They said, like I had the houses built, I don't issue permits. Planning department issues permits. So I think I would like somebody to clear that up, because I had nothing to do with those houses being built. Didn't even know anything about it. So the lady that sent the letter, I don't know her. And she had never called me or sent me an email other than the one that I saw with all the city council on it. So I just wanted to, do you have anything that you would like to share with that to try to, for the public to know that we don't supposed to be doing that?
Excuse me. As far as new construction on paper streets, it's been my understanding that we do not build, the streets have to be improved to standards. So we'll look into the issue. I know the lot that you and I talked about that with the clearing on, that didn't appear to have any type of permits or an address issued for the clearing lot. Now I'll review the other one that you just spoke to and see what the story on that is.
What's going to be the policy from here on when people go to planning about building houses on those streets? Because it's beginning to happen more and more, I see, in that area.
Well, we need to be consistent on what we're telling everyone. And what my understanding that on the history of the paper streets is that unless it's improved to city standards, or it would have to be improved to city standards to construct a home.
Thank you. I appreciate you looking into that and let the council know exactly what the finding is on that so we can answer these questions or concerns. Thank you.
Councilman Bennett, what street you said that was? What city? Was it Marlboro?
It's over there back of this.
It's a winery at the corner of Winery and Town Point, in that area right there.
I have it on my phone.
It's Pewville or something?
I have it on my phone. I can look it up.
What's up to Chesapeake there?
It butts up to
Where it
Chesapeake.
comes in from the Chesapeake line into that, what's it,
South of Pughesville.
Winery Street, isn't it Winery?
That's where the lot that was being cleared on, and the house you spoke to, you said was down the street from that. Or down Town Point Road from that.
Yes, Winery Road.
Wasn't there one also mentioned that where the concrete, there's a concrete group
Concrete.
down there, and is that one you're talking about also? That
No,
they're
this-
building back there, and that's also considered a paper street back in there?
I wasn't talking about that, but you're probably right,
I
it's
mean,
probably another one.
I got some information on that
We'll
also.
get together after the meeting and figure out where it
Yeah,
is.
that's
Everybody get together after the meeting.
All right.
We can
That'd be fine.
continue.
He
on.
knows what I'm talking about.
He's getting the letters, if not, we'll forward them.
Okay, well, you got my drift what I've talked to you about, so. That's all I had. Want to make sure we get that right there.
Okay, we'll move on with announcements. I'll try not to be too redundant here, but I also attended the badge pinning, 8 new candidates. I want to thank them for their willingness to serve, and also spoke to the chief. We got a good group of people in the works heading to the academy also, so I think that speaks, volumes for our department. I know we're still down a few people, but I look at some adjoining cities, and we're not normally in the kind of shape they are, and I think that speaks volumes, to our force and the work environment and the relationship that our department has with our citizens. Keep up the good work. I too attended Pioneer Elementary. The principal there, Miss Mooney, is also a friend of mine. It was good to see her, and the vice principal and the staff, and I think the vice mayor mentioned it, how excited everybody was. The staff was excited to be back. The kids were excited to be back. It was a great atmosphere. And of course, Miss Northern was there, brought a little bit more to it. I also wanted to mention that Ed Beersley has opened up a new eatery called the MOD Olive, which is where the old Plaid Turnip was. The Plaid Turnip name is going to stay with the restaurant that is now at the Cultural Arts Center. But I went in there the night before last, and it's been remodeled. It's kind of a 60s decor, a little eclectic. It's interesting. If you haven't gone by there, please go by there and patronize him. I appreciate for his investment downtown. Let's see, I also want to thank our planning director, David Hanley, who's going to be retiring at the end of the month, for his service, dedicated service, and I wish him well in his retirement. We got a great report this evening from the real estate assessor. Thank you for that report. I mean, things look positive. We've got some little extra revenue coming. We got some more in the pipeline. Our numbers look good. I particularly commented that our median sales price was higher than any other city in Hampton Roads, even higher than Virginia Beach. And just off the top of your head, you would never think that our median value home would sell for more than one in Virginia Beach. So it's good for property values also, which ultimately is good for our tax base. We are making progress, lots of progress, vaccinations. 60 days, just amazing, and where we've come. Like I said, nobody cares about getting tested right now. They want the shots, and we're finding ways to get them out. The kids are back in school. The municipal center is open. I mean, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. We're all heading in the right direction. Nobody mentions St. Patrick's Day. I'm surprised, and nobody gave me grief about not having any green. But I just want to let you know, I was in a Boy Scout, so I came prepared. I have a green dot right there, just in case somebody brought it up. So I need to make sure that y'all knew that. And with that, I'm going to go to my quote of the night, and kind of relates to misinformation. And, we have so many ways to get our information now, and I think we have so many ways to get misinformation now, be it on social media, sometimes from our neighbors, sometimes from people that have different agendas, if you will. But that quote is from Adam Conover, Conover. And I hadn't heard of the guy, but he turns out to be a comedian. I don't know if anybody else has heard of him. But anyhow, he's an American comedian, Adam Conover. And that quote is, "I think that at the end of the day, correcting misinformation and questioning what we think we know as a habit of mind is incredibly important. So take what you think you know and verify it before you come to your own conclusions and before you act on what you've heard, regardless of where it's coming from." And I think we'll all be better off for it. With that, I will say good evening, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Everybody wanted to do that one. Eric, do you want to pick one?
Just go ahead.
All right, Councilman Foster with a motion.
Let's
We'll
roll.
give Councilman Ward the second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes?
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Newman.
Yes,
Motion is approved by a vote of 8 to 0.
meeting stands adjourned.